is Brennan Drane, and I'm interviewing my dad, Charles, over the events that happened on September 11th, 2001. So, Charles, what were you doing on the day of the 9/11 attacks?
Well, I just gotten home from work 2 hours prior to the attacks. I'm working at United Airlines in Indianapolis. We lived in Danville at the time. I was babysitting you precisely when the events happened. You were 2 years old, and we were watching TV.
How did you get to know about the attacks?
Well, like I said, we were watching TV, your shows. The shows were interrupted by the announcement. I turned the channel over to a news network so I could get more information.
What is the most vivid memory you have of that day?
How calm you remained during all that. You were calm during it while I watched the news, and I was actually in shock by your calmness and everything that I saw on the screen unfolding before me.
Do you know anyone, not just personally, but it could be indirectly, who died during that day?
Indirectly, yes. Directly, no. Indirectly would be a mutual funds manager. Your mother and I had, at that time, recently taken some of our money and put it into a mutual fund. And the manager of that mutual fund, actually the founder and everything of the company, was worked out of that one of the towers, and he was killed in the attack.
How do you feel of that track? Like, how did you feel when you first heard of the tragedy?
Of the attack itself?
Yes.
Numb. Not knowing what to think, not knowing what to do. I realized that it was an attack on our country, similar to Pearl Harbor attack. Curious as what the country would do in retaliation for this, if anything, and how it would affect me if I'd have to leave you and the family, being that I'm in the military, obviously. And I was also concerned if this is the first of many attacks that would happen, because I follow the news quite well, as you know, and curious if these are going to be just the start of many more attacks.
Do you have any nightmares of the attacks on the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, or what could have happened if one of the other planes hit either the Capitol building or the White House?
Nightmares, no. Concerns, yes. But no, I have not had any nightmares. It was not to that magnitude that I would call it nightmares or anything like that.
Okay. Besides me, because I know, as you mentioned, that you were babysitting me that day, who else was nearby when the terrorist attack was going on?
Your mother, she was at work not just a few miles up the road at Kroger in the bakery department. If I remember right, I called her and asked her if she had heard what had happened.
What was most difficult for you to get, for you to get past the attacks of 9/11, how you should not think about this again?
I don't think I am past it. And it's not that I don't think there is a reason why we should not think about it. We should think about it. Every day we should think about it.
No, like what I'm meaning is like not forget about it in all, but just forget about the fact that we got attacked. We shouldn't forget about the people who died. Just forget about how we got attacked.
I don't think we should forget about that either, because we were attacked. We have enemies outside the borders of this country. We should always remember that. If we forget about that and let that go away out of our mind, we can become weak. We can become, put our defenses down. We think we're safe. We're safe inside our country only because of the military and law enforcement and other agencies that protect us. Not that we don't have enemies. There are enemies out there that, as shown on 9/11, 2001, want to do us damage, want to do us harm, and kill us. And if we forget about that, then we may forget about to protect ourselves, is my fear. Or we should never forget about the people who died. True, we should honor them, and we should honor them by being more protective of our country, and try to show the world also that we're peace-loving people too. Though we shouldn't go on the attack, but we should also never let our defenses down.
Okay. What was this experience like for our family? Like, was it heartbreaking? Was it astonishing? Like, what happened?
I think you said it right there with the last word, astonishing. Breathtaking would be another word for it. Didn't know what to think about it. Again, I know that initially we were shocked by that our enemy, that we didn't really realize how tough they were, attacked us. But then after that, the other thoughts were, with me being in the military, how would it affect your mother, you, your sisters, if I had to deploy somewhere in response to the attack?
How have your feelings changed toward the attacks? Like, do you think we should think more about this attack, as your feelings of astonishment calmed a little bit, or anything else?
The shock is one way, yes. The feelings about the attack, I still think that we need to stay on our defense. We need to support our military, like our country does, for most part. We need to not single out a particular group of people, but to be aware of that we are not loved around the world, and that we need to always be aware that that's out there, and to be prepared, to keep a sharp eye out and notice anything that may be suspicious. I think it's maybe waking up this country to realize that we're not indefensible, that we are able to be attacked. So my feelings have changed a lot. I am not the same person that I was before the attacks, because I am more cautious about my surroundings and the people that I see on the street.
And one last question. As you mentioned, that we shouldn't single out any group or individual who did this. So, who, in your opinion, when you first heard about this, who were you thinking about? What were you thinking about who did this?
I immediately knew who did this. Being in the military, I was completely aware of the threat posed by terrorists, particularly the group Al Qaeda, and its then leader, Osama bin Laden. I've been aware of him up to that point in time for about 5 years. So it was not a surprise to me that it was Al Qaeda and Osama bin Laden. So I knew about him, and I was just shocked at the ability that that group had. But again, it's just that organization. It was not a particular group of people.
And actually, I still have another question for you. There's, the plane that crashed in Pennsylvania, you heard about that?
Yes.
Were you amazed that the passengers actually fought back, or, like, in your opinion, do you think they should have let them continue flying the plane? Because even though they heard about the attacks, what would you have done?
Very good question. Actually, very good questions. Okay. To the first part of your question, what did I think about the passengers of that aircraft? I consider them true American heroes, but I consider them also what Americans have always been. They've always been throughout the history of America. Strong people who are willing to do whatever it takes to fight for what they believe is right and not be pushed around. Those passengers on that aircraft were true Americans. I am disappointed and kind of grieved by the fact of the other aircraft passengers, that they allowed themselves to for those attacks to happen that way, to be taken control of. Americans in history have not been, don't allow that to happen to themselves. So again, it shows that shows where our mindset in the country was, our complacency, that we were just, no one's going to mess with America. Well, I'm an American, who's going to mess with me? All that terrorism stuff you see on TV and happens in other countries, if it even happens at all. I can turn it off on my TV. I don't see that. That's the type of people that were on the other aircraft, in my opinion.
I completely agree, because but I also disagree. Like, I agree, because Americans do act like that to this day too. But just a little bit, but I disagree, because for all passengers knew, the pilot could be like other pilot today, not a hijacker or anything. It could have been just somebody that's supposed to be flying them.
Investigation had proven that they were all aircraft hostages were taken hostage. So they all knew they were under a situation. The other ones allowed it to happen. They let fear set in. Now, to the second part of your question, what would I have done? I can't truthfully look you in the eye and tell you, you're going to shout out, this would happen this way. No one knows what they will do, how they will react in a situation that those passengers found themselves in. I would like to believe that I would be like the passengers of the flight that crashed in Pennsylvania, as you described. That I would take every action possible to protect the other passengers and to protect the aircraft, and to not allow that to happen, even if it cost me my life. Because no one should take our aircraft hostage, no one should take our people hostage, and we should not allow ourselves to be pushed around by anybody. We don't mean any country or any group of people any harm. We are out to show that we get concerned and are help to help other countries and other people. If they don't like it, they're not going to harm us.
Well, thanks for your time today.